Black woman. Beautiful, powerful, resilient female of African descent with skin kissed by the sun. Conversation. A talk, especially an informal one between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. We love being Black women. Black women are ambitious. Black women are confident. Black women are diligent. We are tenacious. We walk out of our houses put together. We are many shades and personalities of fabulous. But we as Black women don't talk about our dilemmas, current events, and what's going on every day that affects us. So, we created this podcast as a way to laugh together, cry together, and have an open conversation about life as Black women.
Oh, that's deep. Black Women Conversations.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Janine.
How's your week been?
It's been okay. I can't complain. I guess I'm not going to complain this week. But I will say the transition of starting something from scratch is just really hard. Especially if you are working for a company or an organization that doesn't know what you do. Let me just start there. And it's just interesting at a time where Black maternal health is on the spotlight, and there's this push for levels of care and who's high risk and who's not, and to make sure that people have the best care ever, including a high risk specialist. And then you are in an institution that doesn't value you more than as a specialist. So it's growing pains. I get it. I've done this before. This feels a little different than it did in Indiana because I don't know if there's just less resources or what, but it does feel a little bit different than it was in Indiana. And some of that is because some of the systems were already in place there, even though I was starting something from scratch. But here, it's like having to convince people of what you need and how it's different from my specialty versus the general OB specialty. So I will not get on a soapbox about that. This is not pregnancy pearls, but it's a lot. It is a lot. And I feel like I'm not getting paid enough to do the things that I'm doing. And it's very frustrating, but I understand that with me even thinking about walking away, I could jeopardize a lot of people's jobs. So it keeps me where I am because I know that I've hired the people I've hired because of the skill set that they have. And if I'm not there, then they are not there. So it's a lot of pressure. And it's a lot of repeating yourself in different ways to convince people what you need in a very nice manner to not feel like the angry Black woman. It's exhausting. It's just exhausting. But we will get through it. I keep on blaming this stuff on Mercury retrograde, right? Like since we found out that doesn't end until like, I think it's like May 14th or something like that. I have to look it up again. I'm like, can this week end? Can it like please pass? Because listen, this is a lot. And maybe sweet baby Jesus is going to bless me after this retrograde. Like you pushed through, you powered through. Here's your treat at the end. I'm trying not to make any major decisions. Isn't that what they said? Don't make no major moves. Don't make any major decisions during Mercury retrograde. And I'm trying not to do that. But man, I'm telling you, the thought of quit your job has come through my mind so many times. But it's all good. How was your week been? How was your week been, Johnny?
It's been interesting. So I've been traveling for work and it's just been a lot. Like it feels like I had a mini, I don't want to call it a meltdown, but like I feel like I had a meltdown. I was like, I'm done with everything. Don't nobody call me. I don't want anything. If you need something, I'm not it. Like I'm just not it. And I had to like sit and regroup and be like, okay, it's Mercury retrograde, and girl, you're being a little emotional. Like, you got to get yourself together. But it feels like a lot. Like, it just feels like everyone wants something and no one really understands. Like, when I tell you, I feel you on the like, people don't really understand what you do. For the people, I work in sports, right? So like, people understand that I like work in sports, but like, I do events. Like, I don't do sports. I do the other stuff that, keeps the lights on. So it's very different. Like, people kind of get it, or like they kind of comprehend, but then most people don't, because I am a very unique situation in a much big, like, I'm a microcosm, I think that's the word, in a much bigger, like, full-fledged situation. And so people are like, oh, I think we get it. And it's like, but you don't quite, and you don't understand the importance, and you don't understand what I'm doing, and you would like to understand, but like, I get it, this isn't your world, but like, defer to me, please, because that's easier than me having to fight with you. So yeah, it's just different. It's just, the world. You know what, Nicole? I've realized that the older I get, the more I realize that, like, yeah, like, this is all just very much a world that we live in. We control pretty much nothing, and you just gotta enjoy every day as it comes, because tomorrow isn't promised, and life happens, and it will come at you hard and fast, and you look up and you be 40, because Lord have mercy. I'm also babysitting my godchild. No, 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 no. Does not have two legs. It did not get pushed out of somebody. There was no OBGYN that made this child come. My godchild is a puppy, and she's amazing. But her mom and my best friend um, are on vacation. So I am babysitting my god baby, and she is the sweetest thing. I wish I could keep her, but like, my god baby and my dog don't get along very well, so I can't keep her, but like, I've really enjoyed spending this time with my god baby. She's such a sweetheart. It's great. Life is grand. It's very, very busy, but it's grand. Nicole, I think that, to your point, I'm not complaining anymore. I'm just grateful that life is what it is, and that I'm still on this side of glory, as the old folks say.
Listeners, how's your week been? We know y'all missed us because we've been sort of scarce on social media as of late. But listen, we busy and we know you're busy too. So let us know how you're doing.
Shout out to the listeners. Y'all, we love you. We just be busy. And it's not that we're ignoring you. We just, forgive us. We'll do better. I promise. We'll do better.
All right, Janine. So what is actually on the timeline this week?
Okay, Nicole. So we have another very sad situation on our timeline. We're going to talk about Jordan Neely. So Jordan Neely was a young 30-year-old man who was a talented dancer, who made a modest living as a street performer. So, the people who perform in the streets of like New York City, who, some of them dress up like Mickey Mouse or other characters, and like some of them are just street performers. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. He was a street performer, and he was specifically a Michael Jackson impersonator who performed in Times Square and actually on the New York City subways. So in recent years, like so many others, after, the pandemic, Jordan had fallen on hard times, and he found himself living on the streets that he performed. And it seems as though his life kind of went downhill a little bit before the pandemic, when his mother was murdered in 2007. So his mother was tragically murdered in 2007, and it just seems like his life kind of took a downward spiral at that point. Not only was he suffering with homelessness, but he was also struggling with his mental health, and the combination of the two, and combined with a lengthy, and I am hesitant to say this because he had an arrest record. Look, you don't know why he was getting arrested, but he had a lengthy arrest record, and it included things like assault, jumping the turnstile to get on the subway, theft, things that seemed to be like petty crimes, but he did have a lengthy arrest record. So all of those things, I think they were based on his circumstances, but I can't really speak to that. So Jordan was on the New York City's Department of Homeless Services. So the New York City Department of Homeless Services has a list, and it's a list of homeless individuals who are like high risk. So they call them like acute needs. And this list is created for people who would potentially disappear. So, as we know, New York City has a very high homeless population. New York is very, very expensive. And sometimes the people who are following their dreams, like, the concept of a starving artist is real in New York, right? So they follow their dreams and unfortunately they might not make it. So some of them do end up on the streets. Jordan was one of them. So he was on this list. And while he was on this list, on Monday, May 1st, he boarded a New York City subway. But this particular day, Jordan decided that he wanted to get on the train and give a speech. And as the other witnesses say, he was ranting. He was ranting about his homelessness, his condition, and what he was going through and how he felt he shouldn't go through it anymore. Witnesses say that Jordan was yelling about being fed up and hungry. And they said that he was talking about how he was tired of having nothing. They say that he said, I don't care if I die. I don't care if I go to jail. I don't have any food. I'm done. So it seems that he was in a space where he was just frustrated with his condition and really didn't know what else to do. So after this loud rant, witnesses say that he took his coat off and he threw his coat to the floor and said that he was ready to go to jail and he was ready for a life sentence. So while he was kind of making the other passengers uncomfortable, it's a little, and I say kind of because some people were just saying that they were observing and they thought, some people really did think he was suffering with a mental health crisis, as he was. And some people said that he was making the crowd uncomfortable. So while he was making some people in the crowd visibly uncomfortable, even causing some to actually flee the train, like going out and going back into another car, he wasn't actually addressing anyone directly. He didn't confront anyone. He didn't put his hands on anyone. He didn't harm anyone. He was just having a public rant. So he didn't address anyone directly. But while he was doing this, he didn't attack anyone. They asked, like, was he aggressive? Nothing. He was just having a moment out loud, right? Some believe that he was suffering with mental health issues, and some just believe that, it was the precursor to him attacking someone, which wasn't the case. And now we know he was having a mental health crisis publicly on the New York City subway. So on that same train that day was a 24-year-old Marine Corps veteran, and his name was Daniel Penny. And Daniel and Jordan did not appear to have any contact or interaction prior to Daniel taking it upon himself to place Jordan in a chokehold and restrain him on the floor of the New York City subway. Now, Nicole, imagine a visibly mentally unwell man is having a rant on the New York City subway, and a strapping 24-year-old Marine Corps vet decides that he wants to place this man in a chokehold. So he places him in a chokehold and he continues to hold him in this chokehold for an unspecified amount of time. Some say that it was 4 minutes. I know that the video was about 4 minutes, but we don't know how long he was holding this man in a chokehold because I personally have not seen the entire video. So he holds this man in a chokehold for approximately about 4 minutes. And as he's holding him in a chokehold, we watch him beg for his life, and then we watch his body go limp. So Daniel restrained Jordan until his lifeless body laid on the floor of the New York City subway. First responders arrived and attempted to resuscitate Jordan, but they were unsuccessful. He was then taken to Lenox Health Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. So the medical examiner determined that the cause of death was compression of the neck and that Jordan's death was ruled by the medical examiner a homicide. So there are multiple details of this case, Nicole. the fact that he was homeless, the fact that he was struggling with mental health issues, the fact that his mother was murdered, that are just tragic. But the part that I want to focus on is the fact that a random, seemingly unprovoked citizen took it upon himself to place another citizen in a chokehold until he died. Now, one of the things that I would also like to point out that I did not mention in the story because I just felt like it would make the story much darker than it really already is that there were witnesses and you can kind of hear what they're saying in the background. And some people were like, oh, well, let's make sure he didn't defecate on himself, because if he's defecated on himself, you've taken it too far. And some people were like, oh, well, I know how to do this, so he's fine. He'll be okay. And none of them seemingly, and we can't necessarily see all of these people in the video, but none of them seemingly are experts, because as we know, Jordan did pass away on the floor of the subway train in New York City, the same trains that he performed on and sometimes slept on, and the same trains that he had charges for jumping the turnstiles to get to. All of it is tragic, not disputing any of that. But the fact that someone took it upon themselves without any given authority to restrain and subsequently kill this man, that's the part that I think is the most tragic. What do you think, Nicole?
That is tragic. I think that there's a lot going on in America right now. I think that when you feel like, 24, right? You just woke up that morning and said, I might kill somebody today. Like, what made you decide to step in at the moment that you did? He wasn't stopping anybody from getting off the train. If you were annoyed, get off the train. If you were in a rush and you couldn't get off the train, shut up and sit there until you can get off the train. Like, I don't understand how anyone, without even saying, hey, can you push, or hey, you're scaring people, like with no warning, he jumps around this man. And if you look at the video, this Marine has him in a chokehold, but he also pulls him to the floor. The thing that gets me is even once he's like obviously can't breathe, he still feels a need to hold him with the same level of strength in the chokehold. The other people still have the nerve to try to help restrain this man. And nobody thought that this was like, hey, stop overreacting. This is enough. Hey, he has a mental health problem. Obviously, this is enough. So it's all just so reminiscent of the Trayvon Martin story, except for obviously Trayvon Martin did not have a mental health issue. He was just walking from the convenience store where he was getting a soda and a bag of Skittles, right? I guess this guy on the train that decided to be, I don't know, super cop or whatever he wants to be.
A couple of things, Nicole. First, before we even get to this situation, like before we even get to this one instance that took his life, there are a couple of things. We as a society failed him at multiple points in his life, right? We failed Jordan at multiple points in his life. We failed him with his mental health issues, because there should not be a situation in the United States of America, where we are the land of the free and the home of the brave, that we can't provide mental health support for any individual, whether they are houseless or not. But the part that really bothers me is that we have gotten to a point in society where we feel like we are judge, jury, and executioner, and we're okay with it. We are okay with us as civilians being judge, jury, and executioner. And that's not how our legal system was set up, and that's not how we should be. What happened to assuming the best intentions? What happened to giving people grace? Because clearly his situation is much worse than yours. And if he is not attacking you, now I get it. I was raised by a police officer, right? My father says, it's better to be a defendant than a victim. And I understand that. But I also understand that you have to have situational awareness, and you have to be willing to give people who might not look or act or behave in the same manner that you feel comfortable with, not even like you, but just a manner that you feel comfortable with. They might not do that. And you have to be okay with that, because You do not have a heaven or hell to put anybody in, and you do not have the right to judge them and or punish them. You just don't. And we can't walk around in the world. It's a dangerous place if we walked around in the world and every time someone pissed us off or we felt uncomfortable, we just had the right to kill them. It's just not okay. Like, think about what that would be like, right? Think about in a day how many people make you feel uncomfortable. Think about in a day how many people frustrate you. Think about in a day how many people just act very differently than you live your life. And if we felt like we had the right to put our hands on them and or potentially kill them every single time that that happened, what would society really look like? And do we want to live in a society that looks like that? I don't think so.
I would agree, Janine. I mean, this is, truth be told, anybody can have a mental break at any time, right? There's a lot of stresses, and I may go into work and just rant and talk about how I'm done and I'm tired. Does that mean that somebody can literally come up from behind me and slam me to the ground while they're choking me? It just does not add up. But this case is going to make or break how people behave in the future. Because if this person is allowed to walk scot free, it's going to tell everybody, oh, well, anytime somebody is annoying, I can just claim I feel uncomfortable and, kill them. But Janine, are you ready to talk through some of these letters from our listeners?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first letter reads, Nicole and Janine, I am so pissed at society today. I feel like the quote majority can do whatever they choose and justify it by saying they fear for their lives or they were acting to protect themselves. That's fine and dandy until it affects my family. My younger brother was at work after hours and was accused of breaking into his own job. My brother is an architect who is new to his firm. He left work, went home to grab a bite to eat, work out, and shower. He then went back to work around 7:30, 8 p.m. that Friday evening, thinking he would get a head start on his city project. But a clerk from another office came back to the office and accused my brother of breaking into the office. She claimed to be doing a citizen's arrest for burglary. She pulled a gun on him and called the police. The police had the audacity to arrest my brother without asking so much as why he was there. He wasn't allowed to call until hours later when he called his boss, who had to clear the whole situation up. But in that instance, my brother was demeaned. He was doubted by someone who's a random clerk. Not saying that clerks are beneath anyone, but how dare she take unauthorized authority over deciding who belongs and who doesn't? Even though we've achieved more in education and pay, the sad part is any Karen can accuse us of doing whatever makes her feel uncomfortable, and we have to do the explaining. Now my brother doesn't know what he should do, so he asked me for advice since I previously worked in HR. I told him to file a complaint against the building security for not updating the employment roster, so maybe the clerk would have known that he worked in the next office over. Since she doesn't work for the company, I'm not sure what else he can do to get justice in this situation. What would you do in this situation, ladies? Signed, Tira.
Okay, so I'm not a fan of running from your problems, but regardless of how you handle the situation, regardless of what the outcome is, it's going to be messy. It's going to be messy in your place of work. And there are a lot of things that you can do. You can file the reports. And yeah, I think you should, right? But the first thing I think you should do is start looking for another job. He should start looking for another job. Like, if we're really being honest, do we ever actually recover from situations like this, right? And I think that that's the problem that I have, is that when these Karens, because that's what the term that was used in the letter, so y'all don't come for me. When these Karens decide that they want to do, like, have these scenes, yeah, it looks bad on them, right? Like, people videotape them and identify them as a Karen, and they go on the Karen Instagram page, because I go on it to see if I know anybody that's on there to see what they doing, right? I understand that. But the situation in which you work, the environment in which you work, it never actually goes back to the way it was. So it's always going to be awkward. It's always going to be uncomfortable. People are always going to look at you differently because you can't unring a bell. And that's the problem with these kinds of things, right? Just like Jordan's situation, he can't bring this man back to life. Did he mean to kill him? We don't know. We have no idea. But you can't undo this. So while it's in a much different situation, I understand that, like, it's awkward. You're never going to go back to working. People are never going to working in the same manner. People are never going to look at you the same. And the situation is always going to be uncomfortable while you're at work. And this Karen is probably going to go on about her life and just be just fine. And, maybe there will be a little backlash on the internet. But guess what? Her friends that are exactly the same way that she is, they're not going to change. They're going to be exactly the same way that they were. And you're never going to see her in the same manner. So it sounds like it's a simple fix. Now, do I think that you should file a complaint? 100%. Do I think that you should prosecute to the fullest extent? Absolutely. I think that you should do all the things. But the first thing I think you should do is start looking for a new job. He needs to start looking for a new job. That's me. I don't want to work in the environment where the Karens are trying to get me fired or trying to get me arrested or, change my life forever over their opinion or their feeling of being unsafe. I don't have time for it. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go find a new job, and I'm going to take y'all's money too, because it was a wrongful accusation, and it was a toxic work environment, and he needs to find a good lawyer and use all the buzzwords and get all the coins he can get, because while he's looking for a new job, he needs to get their coins too. What you think, Nicole?
This was a little bit harder for me because it says she worked in the next office over. So it's not like they're employed by the same people, right? Like, I imagine they're in a big building. That building probably has several different things in it. Some law firms, some architectural firms, some, consulting firms. And she just happened to see this Black man entering the door of this building, probably with some sweatpants on and a t-shirt, because, he had just got through working out, went home, showered, he was relaxing, and he was just at work, working by himself, right? He didn't have to be in his business attire. That probably is what caught her off guard. But my thing is, why are you even in his job anyway? So you're the person that's actually trespassing because you're not supposed to be in his office. So I don't know if quitting his job, his nice big city job, is the solution, because you're going to have Karens wherever you go, right? They're going to be wherever you go. And it's not like your personal job has created this environment. Now, I will say this, Janine, having to call your boss to clear you up to get you out of jail is a lot. And people are going to look at you a little bit differently, because now you've had a work situation that's now become a personal situation, and you've had to have your boss get you out of that personal situation. That by itself is a lot. And that's enough to say, I don't feel comfortable with people knowing my business like that. And I'm going to walk. The question is, did your job owe you a certain level of security that you did not have? If that's the case, I would definitely argue that, hey, you didn't provide me that security, and then you sue the company. Okay, if you're suing the company, you ain't got no choice but to find another job. If you're suing the building because the building is responsible for security, that's a little different as well. So it really depends. To me, it's the angle of, like, who's to blame, and some of this may require a lawyer. So Tyra, or maybe it's Tyra, I would recommend he talk to an attorney before he does anything. So your attorney can do the digging and figure out which angle should we go with this. Should we go with, hey, my job failed me because I didn't get enough security, or should we go with the building failed me and I didn't get enough security? Regardless, I would let the attorneys figure it out, or maybe both. Okay, so I would lawyer up and let them figure out the best move for you before any moves are made. Okay, I would not quit while you are talking to that attorney unless you're advised, because there may be information that you may have to gather to get to your attorney before that you may not have access to. Because when you quit, trust me, they're getting their legal team together because they are anticipating that you are going to sue. Okay, so I would talk to an attorney, give them the information. I would talk to one quick. Don't wait 2, 3, 4 weeks, because that gives them a chance to say, let's get our legal team together just in case, right? No, go talk to somebody immediately.
Okay, Nicole. So My letter says, Nicole and Janine, Hank here from South Carolina. I just want to share something that happened to my wife and I. It's about babies, so this is for you, Nicole. Sorry, Janine. My wife was pregnant. It says a few months back, my wife was pregnant with our twin girls. We were on our way to Baptist Hospital, and we live in a small town in Crenshaw County, so we were a ways away. When we got on 77, headed to the hospital to check in for a planned C section, my wife's water broke. Mind you, at this point, all I can see is traffic for miles. Given her age and the fact that she was carrying twins, I panicked. I pulled over and called 911. So I knew we were still about halfway away, 30 minutes or so from the hospital. The dispatcher asked me a few questions. I don't know if it was the fact that my wife was high risk or if she could just sense the fear in my voice. But the dispatcher instructed me to put on my hazard lights, stay on the phone, and drive carefully up the shoulder of the road. She said, keep driving up for about the next 3.5 miles. And she said, once I got there, I would see at about exit 34 an officer. That officer would meet me and escort me the rest of the way to the hospital. I was relieved because, as I said, we still had about another 30 or so miles to go. I checked on my wife, who was both in active labor and annoyed because this was not how she planned to have our babies. I stayed on the phone, put on my hazard lights, and proceeded up the shoulder. Well, about 2 miles in, a car moved over and blocked me from continuing up the shoulder. I guess he had nothing better to do, or maybe he was angry because he was sitting in traffic. I don't know. Well, he proceeded to put his car in park, exit his vehicle, and come banging on my window, telling me that it was illegal for me to drive up the shoulder. And why, asking me, why do I think I don't have to wait? He said, that's the problem with you people. He even took down my license plate and refused to get back in his car, and matter of fact, asked me to get out of mine. At this point, I'm just telling the dispatcher what's going on and trying to keep my wife calm. This man continues this for almost 10 minutes, either not noticing or not caring that my wife was 8.5 months pregnant with twins and in active labor. God bless the dispatcher because she dispatched police to our location and they arrived, arresting the driver and escorting us the rest of the way to the hospital where my wife gave birth to 2 healthy baby girls. I just wanted to share this story and say I really wish that people would mind their business and stop trying to police society. Peace and love, Hank.
Hank, I can definitely tell you're a good man. I can tell you're a good man. And congratulations on your 2 adorable babies. It would be great if you could send us pictures to Oh, That's Deep. That would be amazing. So we can see the Oh, That's Deep babies. And it would also thrill me if you would happen to be listening to the podcast on the way to to deliver these babies. But I'm asking for a lot there. But either way, congratulations on the babies. Hopefully, you have something fantabulous planned for your wife for Mother's Day for all that she's gone through. But you know what, Hank? You are better than most, right? This situation could have gone left really quickly because Hank had every right to get out of the car irate, right? My wife is in labor. She's in pain. I'm already on the phone with the police, and you have the nerve to block me? Like, who are you? So that could have turned into a really ugly situation really fast. So shout out to Hank for remaining calm. You are the example that we all need to see in terms of how to handle these type of people that feel a need to try to police everything on their own with no badge. So yeah, you are definitely that example because even me, I would have went left. I would have gone all the way left and been justified in doing that. But if you did, then the situation would have turned out differently, right? It would have escalated the situation. Hank would have probably gotten into a fight. The RoboCop wannabe would have maybe pulled a weapon. I mean, it could have gone really tragically. So I'm glad that you were able to remain calm in all this. But Hank is right. Like, why exactly do people feel like they could take it on themselves to tell me what I'm doing illegally, not knowing the whole situation? And he did the right thing. Like, if you're in labor and you're in traffic, like, you have to get places. Like, a lot of people don't have things to, like, deliver a baby in their car. And even if you have something to sort of like tie off the cord and things like that with, like, oh, I got a MacGyver shoestring, right? And I can tie the cord, and I got a knife. Well, you don't have anything in case there's a laceration or a tear in the vagina and your wife's bleeding. You don't have anything to repair that. You don't have anything to help you if the baby gets stuck. You don't have anything to fix that. So, and there's things that happen during labor that make things emergent. So you don't have anything for that. So it is pertinent that you get there. And so I'm glad that the dispatcher had the wherewithal to tell you, you know what, ride the shoulder. So you can't ride it no more. And then I'm going to have this person meet you at this exit. That was actually very strong and solid advice. But I can definitely see people doing that, right? Can't you see, Janine, like somebody getting pissed off that somebody has started, oh, she's smart. She going to ride the side and get around everybody. How dare you? You got to wait your turn. I could see that happening. Somebody halfway blocking the median or halfway blocking, the exit so somebody couldn't get off.
Let me tell you something, Nicole. I thought the same thing. Every day I drive 295. Yep. People do it all the time. Someone is driving on their shoulder. And here's my thing. It might not be an emergency, but mind your business. Are they bothering you? Is it harming you? If it is not harming you and it is not your business, mind your business, because you don't know what's going on. Just like this man. Now, imagine, thank God, Hank, like that you're patient, because this could have been a situation where you got out, you decided to put your hands on this man who should have just minded his business. Now you going to jail and your wife is out here having babies. Now she's stressed out. Now there's a problem and something's wrong with your babies, right? Glad it was a happy ending. Glad that the babies came out healthy and bouncing baby girls, right? But like, it could have really gone very differently, right? Like, anything could have happened. She could have gotten I mean, legit, what if those babies had start coming in the car after her water broke and she was in active labor and she was pushing, and unfortunately there's nothing you could do, and now all of a sudden it's a whole situation. What if the babies came out blue? I mean, you don't know. And it's twins, and they said her age. I mean, it's a lot of things that could have gone wrong here. Thankfully, it didn't go the other way. Thankfully, Hank, like, the Lord was on y'all's side. But how hard would it have been for this man to mind his business? Because to your point, Nicole, he wasn't upset at the fact that he was driving down the side of the road. He was upset because he was sitting in traffic while someone else was driving down the side of the road. And I think that that's what our problem is, right? Wherever it is that whatever our situation is in life, right? We're okay as long as other people are in the situation with us. You know, they say misery loves company. So when you sit in traffic, you want other people to be sitting in traffic with you, right? But it's when somebody is doing better than us or is perceived to be doing better than us is when we start having the issue. And that's the problem. You live your life. You follow your path. You live who you were created to be, not what I'm doing, not what Nicole is doing, not what anybody else is doing. We need to figure out how to do that. You know, they say like audacity, like everybody has the audacity. It's not even that. It's this, to your point, Nicole, a sense of entitlement. Why do you feel like you have to have the best of everything, but no one else is allowed to have anything better than you? Like, really ask yourself that. And it's not just Karens. I know we like to blame it on them. I know we do. But it's some of us. We're okay as long as someone else is not doing better than us, or they're not getting something that we wish that we had, or we wanted, or we feel like we deserve. Y'all, we got to get out of this. Like, it's bad. It's bad. We are at a point where we can't see the humanity in others because we too busy worried about why they have more than us. Y'all, go back to the Bible. That's not how we're supposed to live. I mean, y'all don't have to read it, but life is going to be harder if you don't. I'm just saying, go back to the Bible. That's not how you're supposed to live. You're supposed to rejoice when other people are rejoicing, right? Like you are supposed to be happy for them. Even if it's not your happiness, you are supposed to be able to rejoice in their happiness. We've gotten away from this. So now we don't know what's going on and we just all out here willy-nilly. And then I'm over it. Off the soapbox, but y'all do better. And it's stop blaming everything on the Karens. Stop blaming everything on racism because everything is not racism. Some of this is just humanity is starting to decline. And we are in that humanity. Humanity is us. It's declining. Y'all do better.
Well, you said go back and read your Bible, girl. Some people ain't reading that. Listen, we're in a world where people are spiritual. They're not religious anymore. Girl,
let me
it's
tell
a
you
shame.
something. Girl, I had somebody said that to me the other day. They were like, "Oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious." And it's like, okay, so what's leading your spirit? That's my question to people like that, right? Now I get it, like the practices of religion. Religion can be toxic. We've talked about that. We can talk about it again, have another episode about it. It can be toxic, but what the purpose of it is to teach you and give you a moral compass to guide your life, right? So be all the spiritual you want, but what are your guiding principles? How about that? Let's talk about what your guiding principles are. Do you have morality or are you just out here banging on people's windows asking them not to drive down the side of the road like this man was doing to Hank? That's the issue. People are out here insane, Nicole. People don't have any morals. They don't have any values. They just out here living wild and crazy and then wondering why life is coming at them hard and fast. Just saying.
All right, Janine. So what did you learn new this week?
Okay, Nicole, this one is for you. So I learned that a person can make a citizen's arrest in almost every state if they suspect someone of committing a felony, as long as the felony actually took place. So if you suspect, you don't have to actually witness it. So there was a point, it was unclear as to what point this law changed, but there was a point where if you were making a citizen's arrest, you had to actually witness the felony, but you just have to suspect at this point that someone committed a felony. And if it actually took place, you can make a citizen's arrest. Now, the issue comes in where you suspect that someone committed a felony and they didn't actually commit a felony, and you make a citizen's arrest. Now, people that are making citizen's arrests for wrongful assumption of a felony, they are actually can be held both civilly and criminally liable. So if y'all want to be out here making citizens arrests, make sure that you know 100% for sure, not only that you know for sure, but that you can prove that the person that you are arresting actually committed a felony. Because if not, you might be the one going to jail. Just saying. What did you learn new this week, Nicole?
That's actually pretty good. But my thing is, I just feel like that citizen's arrest should be like, here's the most wanted. If you see this person on the street, call us. Okay, those are people that I can say, okay, we already know they did it. You make a citizen's arrest against somebody that's dangerous, you could risk your life. I'm just saying that to me that's not very smart. But the key words there is if you know that the crime has taken place, not somebody that looks suspicious walking around your neighborhood. It's not what we're talking about. If you know for a fact the car got broken into, I saw this man breaking into a car, steal the woman's purse. He had a ski mask on and was running. To me, that's a dangerous situation, but you could do a citizen's arrest if you wanted to do that.
No, Nicole, because that's not a felony.
Oh, it has to be a felony.
It has to be a felony, right? So that's where people get into it. So we're talking murder, rape, sexual assault, things that are felonies. So you really have to be in a deep situation for you to know for you to make a citizen's arrest without risking going to jail yourself. So the question for me is it really worth it? Are you really about to are we really about to be out here confronting murderers and rapists to make a citizen's arrest, or are we going to just call 911 like we should?
We're going to call 911.
Amen.
All right. So what I learned, so a couple things. One, I was looking at the statistics about homicides in the U.S. And according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, Black people with 13% of the population, but nearly half of all homicides are Black people. That to me was alarming, like very alarming, which is why I was like, I have got to share that on the podcast. The other thing that I learned is, which is sort of off topic, when we talk about moral compass, right? Like religion is there to guide our moral compass. So, back in the day, you had, the Catholic Church, and then you had different Protestant churches that were popping up, right? No knock to that. I'm Baptist. Janine's Kojic. We obviously are part of the others, right? But King Henry VIII, did you realize? And I looked this up because I've been watching Queen Charlotte, right, on Netflix, which is actually pretty good if you have not watched it. Shondaland strikes again, is all I have to say. She is a freaking genius when it comes to her work. I mean, I just can't get enough. But anyway, and if you don't know, this is a Bridgerton spinoff. Yeah, Bridgerton got spinoffs now, y'all. And she's been number one all week. So either way, go watch it if you haven't watched it. But anyway, King Henry VIII actually tried to get divorced from his wife, right? I think it was Anne Boleyn, through the Catholic Church, tried to get it annulled. I mean, said all kind of stuff, basically because she wasn't giving him a boy. Now, she did have a daughter that wasn't good enough, and she did have a couple of miscarriages, one being a stillbirth of the boy, right? The boy was not born alive. And so he didn't like what the Catholic Church had to say. The Catholic Church said, no, you can't get divorced and you can't get it annulled. So he says, you know what? Let me form the Church of England, and I'm just going to form my own church over here. And then we're going to get rid of these leaders of the Catholic Church and throw you out the country. Okay. And then after I'm through with this woman that I divorced my wife, now they let me get an annulment in the Church of England because I started it. So I annul myself. And then I'll get remarried to this woman. I'm done with her because she can't give me no boys. And guess what? I'm going to accuse her of fornicating and incest and all kind of stuff. So we're going to have her beheaded. And then I'm going to get remarried 3 days later. And then I ain't stay with her either. I mean, it just, to me, it mind-blowing, the moral compass that's in, that some of the churches are founded off of. It's just a little lacking. That's all. I just thought that was like, ooh, they really beheaded the queen.
Yeah,
The
Nicole,
mother of your children.
I actually know that story. I didn't know the middle parts of it where she didn't give him a boy. Then he founded the church. I didn't know that part, but I was like, I think he killed that lady. But again, this goes to the point. Why do we feel like we are judge, jury, and executioner? I don't get it. Like it just is a different level of entitlement. And
Yep.
unfortunately, it's not kings and queens that are giving us that entitlement anymore. It's the average Joe who don't know a bit more of nothing about nothing that's out here trying to guide other people's moral compass. And I think that that's what I have an issue with. Like, I would like not to think that I'm better than anyone, right? But I'm very well aware that I'm smarter than some, right? My issue is, what makes you think that you are the one? Because some of these people, when you really sit and look at it, you're like, you're dumb as bricks. What makes you think that you're the one that should be the designated enforcer? I'm just curious. Like, where do people get this from? I don't know. Okay, give us some motivation, Nicole.
All right, y'all. So the motivational moment comes from Alice Walker. And I feel like I might have said this quote before because I actually love it. And she said, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. So remember, we have the power to make change. Whether you're black, white, yellow, or blue, speak up about injustices. Advocate for things that help our communities and protect those who aren't able to protect themselves. It's up to us to shape the next generation. Until we meet again.
Pray, work, slay.
And show off your melanated excellence. Bye.
Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversations is produced by Nicole Lee Plenty and Janine Brunson Johnson. Executive producer, Ken Johnson. Get the Oh, That's Deep Black Women Conversation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or where you get your podcasts. Please subscribe and rate us. You can follow Oh That's Deep Black Women Conversations on IG at Oh That's Deep BWC. Oh That's Deep Black Women Conversations is a Mean Old Lion Media production.